Okay, so hello guys. This is the day two of our daily meets. So as you guys are not available for yesterday meet, so I'll include yesterday questions also and some of the questions, new questions I also have. Basically today in today's meet. Okay, so in today's meet, Shivani will be the host. Shivani is going to be the host for the day, but she is not available. She will join us from tomorrow. So I'll be the host, and without wasting any time, let's just start the meet. So going with Mahin first. So Mahin, your question is, what is the basic difference between NPM and NPX?
Okay, so there is difference between NPM and NPX. So first NPM. So NPM is Node Package Manager. When we want to install anything from Node Package Manager, so we just use npm i and whatever we want to install. That, for example, npm i express, npm i pcreep, mongoose. That is was npm. But npx is the executor. It's not like installing something. If you want to execute something in a project, not globally, but just regarding this project only, if you want to execute something, so we use npx i and whatever you want to execute. So this is what different between both of them.
Okay, yeah, you are totally correct. Now, one cross question is for you. So, like, if we have two commands, one is npm install express, and other one is npx create react app. So what npm install express do and what npx create react app will do?
Okay, so when we do npx create react app, so it create an environment in that folder so we can execute the react, right? And when I'm doing npm I express, so it installs that in my that particular project. If I don't, if I want to also install some globally, for example, I want to install globally express, so I can also install using npm I minus z and something like command, and then I don't need to do again and again npm I in express. And npx is create something like virtual environment in that folder, so we can use that and we can execute that react or whatever we want to.
Okay, yeah, you are absolutely correct. Basically, if we make a command npm I express, so it will install express in your project, and we give a command npx create react app, it will create a new react app without installing a create react app globally. Okay, so now it's time for Amit. So Amit, your question is, what is an API and how it works and why we use APIs?
APIs. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's basically the routes we can say. So it's basically related to the backend. So whenever we use backend, whenever we use servers, so we create different APIs through which the client or end users approaches, or we can say make requests to the server or the our backend logic. So API is basically different routes or different pathways for the clients or for the end users to make requests to the our backend server. So there are different APIs which are offered through the by the backend for the client to use. So yeah, that's all about I know.
Okay, yeah, you are absolutely correct. So basically, API stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's a set of rules and protocols that allows different software application to communicate with each other. Okay, now it's time for Santosh. So Santosh, your question is how we can import or export modules in Express.js. You are mute.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, yes. So import or export in a like Express.js. Okay. So firstly, the in a backend server, I actually import or export कैसे होता है? Okay, wait, just give me 1 second. I just see import or export. Import or export. Import. Mm. Actually, I forget the how to
Okay,
import
okay,
and
okay.
export.
No worries,
So
no
yeah,
worries.
yes.
The question is transferred to Anklesh. So Anklesh, the same question is for you. How we can import or export modules?
So in the backend server, we can uh, use import and export. Export is used for make available that function in any another application in another uh, files, and import is just like we have only accessibility the models inside this function, not outside the function. So we can uh, use uh, use modules using a required keyword, and we can store the required keyword inside an variable and use that.
Okay,
That is about the export and import.
okay, okay.
We
I'll give
can
I'll give you one I'll give you one situation. Like if we have three types of modules: inbuilt modules, uh, internal modules, external modules, and user-defined modules. So
okay.
like if we create some user-defined modules, and then we have multiple user-defined modules
Hmm.
that we have
Okay.
created, and
Hmm.
now I wanted to import all the modules
Hmm.
in one go. So how we can import all the modules?
Uh, I should write all the modules inside and curly braces and use them in my code.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, nice. We can import all the modules by name import and use them. Put between the comma, all the modules put between the comma between them, and we can use them. Okay, so now it's time for Mahin again. So Mahin, your question is, what is middlewares?
Okay. So basically, middleware is a concept where we can handle we can handle and modify the object of the after request object and the response object. So middlewares work between response after response if we are getting any request from the client, and in and the before we are responding to our client. So in between middleware we can use, for example, we want to check the request is coming, for example, it authenticated or not, user is admin or not, and according to its role I want to redirect my user client. Okay. So this is, in this case I will use middleware. So middleware is the just a definition, or I can say a function that rely between request and response object.
Okay, so basically middlewares are functions that execute during the request response cycle. It can modify the request or response object or even terminate the request response cycles. So, okay, you are absolutely correct. Now it's time for Amit. So, Amit, your question is, what is routing?
Yeah. Routing in backend or routing in front end?
Routing in backend, routing in Express.js.
Okay. So considering backend and Express.js, routing is basically routing your request that is coming from the client side to different routes in the backend. So we have different kind of routes. Like we simply make the route using the Express. Express gives us the feature. So Express has this function called or method called routes or routers. So using that, we can make different kinds of routes for like your user route or product route or any kind of feature route that you want on your backend. After making the route, we need to basically set the path, or we can say the path like slash route or slash authentication or slash something. So using that route, we can actually maneuver, or we can move different requests made by the client to different route. So we have, for example, we have user route, and inside that route, we uh, we handle different kind of requests like get request or post request according to their needs. So this is route using which we can make using Express router, and it is basically mostly used in routing the different requests, and then sending the specific resources or state or data to the front end.
Yeah, Amit, you are absolutely correct. I'll summarize your answer. So basically, routing is a backend. Routing defines how the application should respond to client requests for specific URLs in backend application. It involves associating HTTP methods, get, post, put, etc. Okay, so now it's time for Santosh. Santosh, your question is uh, how app.use works in Express. You are mute.
Hello, hello. Am I audible?
Yes, how app.use works.
Okay. So, in a Express, the app.use in a backend server used to the configure with the handle of routing or middleware or a server related tasks. It is server that the object of setting up it server of setting to the application listening or कैसे बोलते हैं? Okay, inserting the upcoming request or the sending responses. So basically the use of like app dot app yeah in a app in uses the express is the first using the app to create instance of instance of express applications. And or the other the second thing is configure the routes with the app. And and the third one is using the middleware with the app. So and yes, I know that the
Okay,
things.
okay, okay, no worries. Actually, you are not clear in your answer. I'll like phrase your answer again. So basically, app.use is a function which is basically used to mount middlewares in Express.js. Okay, now it's time for Anklesh. So Anklesh, your question is what is Git? What is Git? You are mute.
Git.
What is Git?
Git is the runtime environment. Sorry. Git. Git is a version control system uh, that is used to uh, that is used to add our that is used to host our repositories to live. For example, we want to make an project, so we will create a repository, and inside this, if we want to add something, so we will use function you use method git add, and for writing some messages git dot commit, and for pushing the data, so git push it will use to add the our code inside the github repository. Okay, and if we want to make some changes, so we can uh, make some changes using git dot pull request. So we can make some changes in our repositories and add in our backend in our github. That's it about.
Okay, okay. So one cross question is for you. What is the difference between Git and GitHub?
uh, GitHub is a library where we can store our uh, projects, and Git is a version control system that can handle uh, GitHub.
Okay. So you are not totally correct in your answer. So I'll give the question to Amit. What is the what is Git and what is GitHub? What is the difference between both of them?
Yeah. So in one side we have GitHub. So GitHub is basically a website, or we can say a platform, just like any other platform like Instagram or Facebook, which is used for coders only. Here we can actually store our projects, we can store our code basically, or any big projects we have. So it is basically a we can say a Facebook of coders. So it basically stores the code. It allow organizations and independent collaborators to basically collab, or we can say contribute to any project if that is available in public. On the side, we have Git. So Git is basically a computer program, we can generally say, or a software that basically initiate a Git inside a computer, and then inside that Git, if any changes happens to that Git, or we can say the Git file or the project in general, so any changes that is made onto that project, it basically records that, and any updates, any logs that is made onto that project, it just records those things, and then it basically controls the version. So using Git, we can actually see the logs, see the changes, make those changes, and using Git only, we can actually push those changes to our that platform, whichever we are talking initially, the GitHub. So we can make those changes public on onto that platform. So using that platform, anybody can look into our projects, whatever changes we have made. So in general, in a nutshell, GitHub is a platform to store and public project to other organizations and contributors. On the other hand, Git is simply a computer program which makes those things possible. Like through Git only, we make different commands, and using that command, we like push the code onto the GitHub, make changes, see the changes, see the versions, change the versions, and etc.
Okay, yeah, Amit, well explained. So I'll summarize your answer. Basically, Git is a tool, or as you guys have already said, that Git is a version control system. It's a tool only. And in the other hand, GitHub is a platform where we can host and collaborate on your code. Okay, now it's time for Mahin. So Mahin, your question is, what is JSON?
JSON stands for JavaScript, JSON object notation. So in this, we store our data in a key value pair, but key and value should be a string inside a double quote. Double quote are necessary. Single quote we can't. And in JSON like structure, we also standard data from backend to frontend, also from frontend to backend. Also in our local storage, if we want to store some data, so we store it in a JSON format only. So JSON format is nothing, just a JavaScript object with its notation. So this is what JSON.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so basically, JSON is a JavaScript object notation. Okay, JSON is a JavaScript object notation. It's a basically lightweight data interchange format. It's easy for human to read and write, and easy for machine to pass and generate. JSON is commonly used for transmitting data between server and web applications. Okay, now it's time for Santosh. Sorry. It's Amit's turn. So Amit, your question is, what is the difference between backend and front end? How both
Okay,
the things are works?
yeah. So while working on a website or a web project, we mostly distinguish, or we can say we separate both of website in two logic, a front end and a back end. So front end is the part that basically a client or end user interacts with. Like it has all the fancy elements which is visible on a website. So user interacts with those websites. User can see the data, user can change the data, and user will actually interactivity part is there on the front end side, which is visible to the user only. But when user wants to create something or update something, that updation or creation happens on the back end. So back end is mostly what a developer is interested in. Like while making any request, that request is received from the front end by the client or by the end user, and that request goes to the backend. Now backend logic handles that request. It it makes all the changes, whether it is updating, creating, or deleting, or removing any kind of request, and then after when the request is successful, backend logic sends the response, like whether it is a error or a successful message. That error, or maybe it may be a resources or data, any kind. So that will again goes to the front end, and the end user, the client, will see that, and now this is basically the relationship between front end and back. So in a
Okay, yeah.
nutshell, front end is what client sees or interacts with, and back end is what which is there to handle the request by the client.
Okay, okay. You are absolutely correct. Now it's time for Santosh. Santosh, your question is the same question is for you, but you need to tell what are the things comes under backend part. What are the basic things which comes under the backend part?
Okay. So in a backend part, uh, I'm telling the front end or the back end both, but also
You
I
just
have the
need to tell what are the things basically comes under the backend part.
okay. So in backend parts, the backend refers to the everything like behind the screen. It is the server side application in a backend responsible and the managing the storing the data or the many type of so processing the request or ensuring that the everything in a like a server side. So in a backend, the data management it interact with the database, storing the updating and the uh, updating the data and the business logic business logic. It means the backend process the user request platform and the calculations
Okay,
for
okay.
example.
One cross question is for you. How we can use backend logic in our code, front end code.
Okay, so in a front end code, I basically the use of the logic in a front end. So for example, in a everything in written in a JavaScript. For example, if I calculation parts, I am telling about the calculation part. So if
Okay, tell me how we can connect backend with our front end.
okay, so actually the connect to the backend to the
How we can connect backend to front end.
okay. So we can take the help of Atlas or the many other platforms. So we had we are help to the help taken to the connect with both the front end and a back end in the Atlas. Basically, I used to the Atlas. Uh, so yeah, I know that the
And how we can connect uh, database like MongoDB database in our.
o- okay in a backend parts in MongoDB database. We are connecting to the firstly creating the file in a backend folders, and then after the db.json folder, we write the code and your MongoDB URL paste it there, and the yeah paste it there, and you can check also the in a MongoDB application there are connected to you click on the connect button, so the
Okay, I think
MongoDB
you
is
need to
connected.
work on your like technical skills. All the same question I'll go to Mahin. So Mahin, are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Now it's your time to answer all the question which is asked to Santosh.
Can you please repeat question?
How we can connect MongoDB database to our front end, and
Backend.
how we can how we can connect to our back end to front end.
Okay, okay. So very first thing first, we have to set up our backend. We have to connect our database to backend in Node.js application. So we have a Mongoose. It's the ODM object document modeling. So by using it, we can just simply do mongoose.connect. We have a one function, and inside we pass the MongoDB URL, which we will get from our Atlas. Or it's the online platform where we can store our database. It's a MongoDB. So after getting that URL, we can just simply do mongoose.connect in our Node.js application. So this is how we will connect our database in our Node.js application. So this is what our Node.js backend is set up. And after we have one app dot use course. We have one course middleware. If we want to connect our front end to back end, so we have to first allow that inside that course we have to pass that URL of front end, that which front end we are gonna use to use for this front end, like which front end we will gonna use this back end. So we have to define that inside course, right? And if you want to, like any front end can use this backend, so we can just do app dot use codes. Okay, empty code means we can use this backend for all front end. And if you want to specify which front end, so we have to add inside origin, right? So this is how we can connect front end and backend. In front end side, we have to just use that API endpoint and just let go, and we can use that. So this is what
Yeah,
my answer.
well explained. Okay. Yeah. So now it's time for Ankilesh. Ankilesh, your question is, what is authentication?
Authentication is the process where we know our user, like our user is authenticated, our user is genuine or not. For that we are using middlewares. For that we are using middlewares. Inside the middlewares we are passing our username and password, and decide the if the user your password and if the email and password is correct, so it will generate us a token, and we verify the token. So that the process to get our user, the user is authenticated or not. That's it about the authentication.
Okay, you are absolutely correct. So basically, authentication is basically important for securing user data and ensuring proper access controls. Okay, guys. So this is the last round of this meet. So starting from Amit. So Amit, hello, Amit. Yeah. So this is the last round. So starting from Amit, your question is, uh, what is the purpose of password hashing? Password hashing.
Okay. So hashing, first of all, hashing is a process through which we can make data into a very random string. So here, password hashing works in increasing the security. Let's say we have a user, and that user is basically passing out some credentials like his name, email ID, and password, and then we store that user information into our database. So instead of storing the plain user information, whether it is password or email or anything, in our database plainly, we can actually hash that password, because by any chance, if that database is let's suppose leaked, or the data is leaked, then anybody can read out the data and use that data for any kind of stuff. So instead of storing the plain form of data, we actually hash those data. It's not necessary that password is only hashed. We can hash anything. So that hashed data is stored in the database. So here, if the data is leaked, then the end user or the bad guy can only decrypt that data using the same algorithm that was used in the first place while hashing the data. So data hashing is very important while when security is concerned. So yeah, that's all about hashing.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. Now it's time for Mahin. So Mahin, your question is, what is Node.js?
So Node.js is the runtime environment of the JavaScript. And also using Node.js, we can build the server-side applications, for example, APIs for front-end and back-end for the for front-end, of course. So Node.js is just a runtime environment. Before Node.js, we can run the JavaScript just in a browser, but later, now using Node.js, we can run JavaScript code in our local machines. This is what Node.js.
Okay, so basically Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment built on top of Chrome's V8 engine. Okay, so now it's time for Santosh. Santosh, your question is, what is package.json in Node.js? package.json in Node.js?
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Can you repeat again?
What is package.json in Node.js?
Okay. So package.json is a uh, basically used in a npm installation parts. It is used for the uh, yeah package.json. Okay. Okay. Just give me 1 second. JSON package.json किस काम आता है? Um, so, okay. Package.json मुझे याद नहीं आया. Okay. Listen. In our JSON, in the package.json, there are the crucial components in the Node.js in the Node.js part. Basically, the package.json package.json it contains to the metadata about your project, such as the project name or the version or the descriptions in your yeah. Description in your projects. So it lines it is also the defining the script for the automatically tasks, including your running your application, testing, and the building your project. So basically used for the json package.json file.
Yeah, you are correct. So basically, package.json is a file inside our Node.js project. It holds metadata about Node.js project, such as project name, version, and dependencies that we are using, and scripts. It helps manage dependencies and define scripts to run the application. Now it's time for uh, Anklesh. So this is the last question.
Yes.
Anklesh, tell us about what is Express.js and why we use Express.js.
Uh,
Express.js.
Express.js is a framework of Node.js that is used to create HTTP servers and APIs, and that's allow front end to interact with the backends and manage HTTP request. For example, get request, put request, page request, and delete request. Get request is used to get the data, and post request is used to uh, post any kind of data. For example, users detail, uh, email and password, just kind of things. So that is about the Express. And sorry, Express also allow us some features for routing, middlewares, templates, and uh, yeah, that's it about the Express.js.
Okay. So one cross question is for you. Why we use Express.js if we already have HTTP?
Okay. uh, uh, Express is a framework and it's a conscious way to create a servers, and we don't want to import the module HTTP modules. We just import Express and make our routes.
Okay. The same question is for you, Amit. Why we use Express if we already have HTTP? We can also make the routes by using HTTP. So why we use Express?
Yeah. So on the first place, while using HTTP, basic HTTP method, so there we had to like set up the that server using HTTP and then create a server. After creating, we have the routes. So here we have to manually type the routes, the get request, post request, and there we actually use the controllers. Like after accessing that route, what logic needs to be executed. third thing is the running. So there we manually need to write the code for running the server. So there is a lot of we can say boiler code to write all those things, and things are getting very messy. And while like for bigger projects, we get things messy, and the code space is getting bigger. So to try to solve it, we have Express. So Express is a library through which we can do all these things with little boiler code, and Express gives us very manageable things. Like using Express, we can do the same things in small code base. Like creating a Node.js application is very easy. Write just Express and then initiate it. That's the server. And secondly, for Express, we basically write only the routes. And that route, after accessing that route, we can write the controller somewhere else and use that controllers on your routes. So by this, your routes are very visible, very user friendly, and actually very readable. Thirdly is the writing. So now you don't need the port number or the URL at the same place. You can write all those things on your .env file and use those things while running your server. So these things, the readability, the writability, and the modularity over the HTTP basic thing makes Express more usable and more developer friendly.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so that's all for today. We have also so many questions are left to ask, but as time is not allowing us to continue. So for now, that's enough for today. We will guys meet you tomorrow with new sets of questions. Yeah, thank you so much.